Hello, good morning, and Happy New Year. Happy New Year's Eve. And Fred is in the room, and there's 7 others there. Please come in and say hello. Today, Mary and I are going to be talking about 2022, looking back at some of the live streams that we've done and looking forward to 2023. And looking forward to having that conversation with her. Actually, she and I were talking quite a bit. She got here early today, and we had a nice conversation. I'm going to bring her out now. Mary, how are you?
Hey, John, I'm good. Hey, everybody.
I wish that we would have recorded the conversation we just had before we went live here. That was really interesting, kind of solving all the problems.
Yeah, we solved all the world's problems yeah.
Got some people out there to say hello to: Bobber, Jennifer, Jay Monty, Katie, and somebody anonymous in Facebook. And Christine, good to have you all here. Nice to have you. I'm looking forward to another year of live streaming and podcasting and getting to know everybody better in this community. So, Mary, what's new with you?
Well, I'm still catching up. I'm not quite sure it's New Year's Eve yet. For me, I'm not ready. I'm just not ready.
I always like New Year's. I always think that it's a chance for me to have a new start. But it's like, of course, you can have a new start anytime you want to. But I honestly do stop and think about what do I want to do differently in the next year, And I do that with work. I do that with my personal life, and a lot with the podcast and live stream as well. I think about different things that I want to do differently, and sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. But it's kind of nice for me anyway, to have an optimistic look forward to what's going to be coming up.
And usually what we do in my home group, or I have a circle of friends that we get together and do a potluck, and then we have a New Year's Eve meditation practice of some sort, or a relaxation exercise, and then we write down our intentions for the new year and like what we want our year to look like, and then we write it and put it in an envelope and address it to ourselves. And then everybody hands it to me, and then I mail them out this time a year later. And then you get to see what you hoped would happen and what your intentions were and how that came about or did not come about. It's a fun exercise.
Yeah.
And then we usually, sometimes we'll write stuff down that we want to let go of and put it in the fire. We have a fire pit kind of brunch thingy.
Yeah. Good idea.
Yeah. Those are fun little New Year's week rituals that I like.
Jennifer, thank you for the super sticker. I have never seen that done here before. A $20 super sticker. That was nice of you. Yes, thank you. What a great way to support this podcast and live stream. Thank you so very, very much for that. I really do appreciate it. Nice of you to do that. And Mark, welcome to the room. Good to see you there. Happy New Year to you. Mark was a guest on an episode not too long ago, and then I just posted his the video of that. I think it was just last week. Mark and I were talking about SoberLink. He works with SoberLink within his work. And then there's Gerard. How you doing, Gerard? Good to see you.
Gerard O'Donnell. That's quite a nice
From
name.
Ireland.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
He is. Okay, so what we're going to do today, we're going to talk about the past year and look forward. Just to give you a little bit of background about the podcast and the live stream. So the podcast started in September of 2015. And our first episode was in September 2015. So this year, 2023, will mark the 8th year of doing that podcast.
Wow.
The live stream, we started live streaming actually in January of 2020. And I did like 3 live streams solo, just kind of like an experiment, right? And I actually did have the phone number for people to call in and everything, but nobody was actually watching us live or calling us or anything. But I did that. And then it was in March of 2020 that, it's actually before that, but in February 2020, Angela joined me on a live stream. And then in March of 2020, when everybody was kind of going into lockdown for COVID, we started doing weekly live streams, she and I, every Friday night from March 2020 until October 29th of 2021. Angela and I were doing those streams. And it was a great experience. I loved it. And it was really important, I think, at that time, because
it was very important. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was important for me.
Yeah. There weren't any live meetings to go to at that time.
Right.
I mean, we were really, even in Kansas City, Missouri, a lot of groups, most groups were not meeting in person. And so and I myself, I mean, there was no going into the office. We were totally isolated. So that was a nice way to kind of come together, that live
Yeah.
stream. And boy, and I tell you, and as you know, Mary, it can be draining to do this, and, coming up with ideas and everything. And I think that we needed a break. So we stopped. We were going to start doing it monthly, and then we couldn't even do that. I said, okay, let's just call into this, and take a break. So we stopped on October 29th. And then you and I picked up, I think in March of 2021, 2022,
Yeah.
March of 2022, you and I started, and we started with you sharing your story.
Yeah, I remember that. Yes. And what I wanted to ask you was, how did you and Angela, were y'all going to meetings online together, and that's how you met? Or had you met at conferences?
At a conference.
Uh-huh.
And she did a panel at the International Conference of Secular AA, and I just liked what she had to say.
Mm-hmm.
And it was and I can't remember what her take was on the program, but I really liked what her ideas were fresh to me. Mm-hmm. They were new to me. I learned a lot from her.
Mm-hmm. She's a wonderful speaker, and
she's so well read.
Yeah, she's so well read, and she's so crisp in her insights and the way she speaks. I just loved listening to y'all on Friday nights. Was it 8:00 on Friday nights during the lockdown?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I would look forward to that every Friday night to just listen to y'all. And it wasn't visual at all. It was just listening. And occasionally I'd write a comment. But I loved that. It was like a little fireside chat in old timey days with a radio in the 1940s.
It was fun. Yeah. And we didn't do video then either. We were just with that. It was just audio only, which really actually works fine. A large percentage of people that watch YouTube videos aren't actually watching the video. They're just listening, actually.
True. Yeah.
And I do a lot of that as well. I'll listen to music or something, a podcast or something on there. More people come in the room. We got Joe C. came into the room. Joe, good to have you here. Joe, I have not yet listened to your most recent episode, but it sounds really interesting. He posted a blog about I guess recovery rates, and how successful recovery is, and all and so forth. I haven't listened to it yet, so I haven't gone into it, but it looks really interesting. Whenever Joe does a podcast episode, they're always really well produced, and he has an excellent write up about it. I mean, he unlike me, he is much more thoughtful and planned on his podcast episodes than I am.
You mean he doesn't just show up 5 minutes before and wing it like we do?
He does a good job.
Well, yeah. No, he does his research and he backs it up.
Yeah.
And is that the Rebellion Dogs? Tell everybody where to find that.
Rebellion Dogs
Publishing. Yeah, Rebellion Dogs Radio.
Yep. So I got to definitely listen to that. And it's nice to have you here, Joe. Really nice to have you.
Happy New Year, Joe.
Happy New Year.
How are you in your new part of the country? How's it going? Did you get blanketed?
I didn't know that he moved. He had such a nice place there on the lake, and so he's moved. Anyway, so let's get into it, Mary. I'm going to start by just asking you some questions, I guess.
Okay.
About your experience this last year, and what can you think of any particular live stream that is the most memorable to you, that you really got a lot out of or enjoyed the most or thought was interesting?
A couple come to mind. I always like listening to Beth H. talk about her book, We're Not All Egomaniacs, and just how she came to write it. I loved that whole topic and how she interprets the program and her recovery. And then I was also it was so heartfelt. Crystal M. Was a speaker, and if you have a chance, look back through the episodes. Crystal M. told her story, and it was so heartfelt and honest that it really touched me.
Yes, I'm here. That
really touched me.
That was really a memorable one.
It was really memorable that she just was so present in that moment and talking about her life. And that's a wonderful Crystal M. And then I also loved hearing from Kimiko.
Mm-hmm.
Kimiko G. has a wonderful story too to tell.
Yes.
Yeah.
And these are both from your home group.
They are actually. So I'm a little biased. I'm a little bit biased. They're sort of my friends, and
Yeah.
they're also wonderful people and wonderful speakers, and they have a great message of recovery that I always enjoy.
Hopefully this coming year in 2023, we can have more guests, you know. I think what I can do is a lot of times I'll have people that will schedule to appear on the podcast, and I'll say, hey, why don't we just record it live and do it on Saturday, and then you and I can interview them.
Oh, I would
together.
love that. Yeah, I would love that.
Yeah, because that way, you know, we have them planned out ahead of time, and we can get them all ready. And
yeah, that would be wonderful. I would love that. And I loved also Roger C. We had Roger on.
That's right.
Talking about AA Agnostica.
Which was interesting history.
It was wonderful. Yeah. He's
well,
fun
I'll tell
to
you,
talk
my
to.
favorite one that we ever did was just the last one we did, the one about the movie Clean Slate.
Clean Slate.
Mary, knocked the ball out of the park on that one. I told you we got an email from the producer of the movie who watched that live stream, and he was really impressed with the conversation that we had. And you really carried that conversation.
Well, I loved it. And I love film. So I'm always excited to talk about films. But you know what really got me interested in the film was when you did the podcast, the interview on your site about the film. Mm-hmm. And I loved the way he lovingly talked about making it and the way he was so open to the people in the recovery house. And I just really appreciated him as a person and his kindness, that it made me want to watch his film, you know. So he actually made me want to watch his film. And then when I watched the film, it was a film about people making a film, and you haven't seen it yet. It's on probably everywhere, Amazon Prime, but you have to rent it for a minimal amount. But yeah, it's called Clean Slate.
Joe liked the podcast I did with Peg O'Connor, and she was the author of the book about William James. And I liked that too. Let me see if I can find that episode.
Oh yeah, I haven't heard that. I want to hear that.
She was really good. What I liked about her, I learned something from almost every guest. Well, and what I learned from her, yes, higher and friendly powers is the episode.
Okay.
But what I learned from her is episode 273. She is a professor of philosophy. And I've never studied philosophy, and I never really thought of it as, this is my own ignorance, as being particularly valuable, I guess, you know. I never really, I don't know, it's stupid of me. I know Aristotle, all these guys were really important, but I never really thought about it as anything that was that. Anyway, she brought a fresh perspective to me from a place of philosophy, and that she was talking about William James, and what she said, what I really took away from that interview with her is that she said that William James, the father of psychology, would regret how psychiatry and psychology has become so scientific and was leaving out the human factor, that, you know, that it was just, you know, it was just leaving out the humanity of it, because William James was all about, you know, expressing feelings and emotions, you know.
Is he the author of Varieties of Spiritual Experience? Yes. My parents had that in their library, and I still have that copy.
Yes.
So I would love to hear her speak. Peg O'Connor.
Yeah, and what I found, what was interesting to me about that, because, you know, I've gone different areas when it comes to like spirituality, you know, and communicating, and I do consider myself bilingual, by the way. So if someone wants to talk spiritually about their recovery, I can do that, and if they don't, that's fine too. But I was leaning more towards the side of, you know, I think that language, that spiritual language, is more, just complicates things and is unnecessary. And that we should just be practical and just, you know, just talk about what's real and going on. But when you do that, you leave out the human emotional part of the recovery experience. And and that's important. And if people want to express that humanity using these spiritual terms to try to express something that's hard to understand, that's beautiful, and it should be done. And I guess I got a new appreciation for that from her, you know. So I have a better understanding now about
how to language it.
Why I understand why people want to use that kind of language to express this experience, this very human experience, which is not easy to understand, and to be able to express it without having to understand it in a scientific way or a medical way, and just express it as a human being. And that is going to be, we are kind of like that. I mean, I think we evolved sitting around the fire, right? And having these experiences with each other and communicating in ways that are through art and story, rather than just, the facts,
Just the facts, ma'am. Yes.
So I really, ever since that interview with her, I really have appreciated this idea that, if I'm going to talk about recovery with another person, that, let's just not just be facts only. Let's just not just be practical, but let's really touch upon our feelings.
Yeah, our common humanity.
Yeah.
And emotional intelligence.
So
and
I agree,
some people are better at verbalizing it than others.
Bree says that she likes when Fred calls in. And Fred has been calling in ever since we've been doing this.
Yes, he does. I always love to hear the way he speaks in that Virginia twang.
Oh, he has a beautiful accent.
He has a beautiful accent. I love that part. Yeah, it's right around his area where people sound like that. Yes.
Yeah. So I was going to also ask you, Mary, what do you enjoy most about doing these live streams?
When it's over?
When it's over. No. I'm going to say the same thing. When these things are finished, I swear to God, I'm always smiling. I'm always happy.
I always feel like, oh my God, we got through another one, because, I love them or I wouldn't be here. And, the whole thing in 2022 was just going beyond my fear.
Yeah. And
doing something that I kind of wanted to maybe try out, but, I was really afraid to do, because being on this and sharing myself on video and audio and it going on the internet forever, it's scary. And so because it scared me, I wanted to push past the fear and see if I could do it as a human being and still keep my shit together. So, and I also love secular recovery, and I love holding a space for that in all forms of recovery. So what was the original question?
I guess your favorite part about doing these live streams.
Okay. So the favorite part is not really when it's over, but just when people talk to us and when we get to talk to interesting authors, and when we learn about different ways of staying sane and staying sober. And so it expands my knowledge, and it also opens my heart. And there are people here in this room today that have really helped me expand my level of tolerance for other groups, other ways of being in recovery, other ways of looking at everything. And I feel less rigid because I've come and had conversations about things that maybe I didn't know a lot about, or maybe I had a confirmed opinion about, and I've opened and softened, and I feel less rigid. And I really appreciate the people that have had conversations with me about what they have, so that I could change the way I think into a more open, loving, tolerant kind of way. I appreciate that. And I feel like especially the secular approach embodies that for the most part, hopefully.
My favorite part about doing this is the conversations I had with you before and after. We should record some of those. I know. Well, I loved getting to know you. You've brought so much more to my life this last year. It's just been it's been a pleasure and an honor to get to know you.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm learning more about what's going on out there and different ways of thinking about all of this stuff.
Yeah.
You're kind of keeping me connected with the whole ICSA thing, because I said, enough of that.
Enough
of that for
me.
Well,
you had, you had served a lot. Yeah.
Yes. So you keep me kind of updated on what's going on with that. So that's always nice as well.
Yeah. And I love ICSA, and I have really enjoyed being part of the planning committee for the conference that we had on October 29th. I really enjoyed that as a process, and getting to know the people on the planning committee. And it really has, like it said, expanded my friendship level, and it just expanded the way I learned to do group process. And I loved that conference. I'm so proud of the work that we did, and the workshops, and the people that came, and everyone that contributed to that. I'm truly grateful for. I think it was a great success, and we did it. We did a virtual conference, and it was great.
I enjoyed that too. I enjoyed the panel that we did. there, and the conversation that we had afterwards with people. Even though it was kind of weird that we were on Zoom and we were on Facebook and live streaming here on YouTube, and the people in Zoom couldn't hear us or vice versa, something like that. Yeah.
Well, they couldn't hear the questions that people were asking. I think maybe they could hear us, but then they couldn't hear what we were talking about, I think.
Yeah.
Not sure, but it all kind of came together somehow.
Yep. Jay, I posted a link to Joe's website that in YouTube that you can see there, and I'll post it in the show notes later too. I need to find that particular episode so that you can find it, but I'll definitely put it in there for you. So, okay, another question I was going to ask you is, what do you least enjoy? What is it about this whole experience that you would like to have a little bit different?
That's a very good question. I always like it when we have people, I guess I would like a third person to interview.
Yeah.
I like talking to people about their creative projects, whatever it is, whether they're authors or filmmakers or artists or in different levels of sobriety. Like there are people that I listen to a lot of podcasts, and people I hear on different podcasts, and I'm like, God, I'd love to have them as a guest on the show. Because I'm worried. I feel like, okay, I will.
And we'll invite them. We'll do that and see if we can get them on. And we'll try to have more guests on the live stream in 2023. I think that would be fun too.
Yeah. And I also am always concerned that we're boring. Because, that's my initial feeling, is that why would anybody want to listen to what I have to say? And so I just encourage people to give us suggestions on how to, what your perspective, and we're open to suggestions.
I'm going to put our phone number up so people can call in, and please give us a call. Share with us what your, any favorite episode that you had, or anything that you would like to see us do differently, or just share about your personal experience in recovery this last year, and what you're looking forward to doing maybe differently or improving on or doing more of in 2023. I'd love to hear that. This isn't just about a live stream or
and it's not just about us talking. It's about us talking to you. Yeah,
it totally isn't. So I've got the phones open now, and I will make sure that I monitor those so I can see when the calls are coming in. So please do feel free to give us a call. So yeah, I think that for sure. One of the things that I want to do better in 2023 is be more prepared. I want to be more prepared, not just with the live streams, but also with my other podcast interviews. And a lot of that just comes down to scheduling. The most difficult ones for me to do, Mary, on the podcast side are when I'm interviewing an author and I have a book to read ahead of time.
Well, that's a lot of time and pressure.
Oh, it is. And I usually am like last minute. And there have been times where I would spend like an entire day doing nothing but reading a book. Right.
Yes.
and it's just a lot of stress. And then I always worry that I didn't completely understand the book right. And then when I'm doing the interview itself, I'll fall into this trap where I'm trying to show the author that I understand their book. And, it's just crazy. I just have a really hard time with that. So I really want to kind of slow down a little bit and be more prepared, and kind of schedule my time a little bit better. That's the most difficult thing about having something like this to do is you've got other things to do in life, and
time management. Yep.
Oh boy, we do have some comments here. Let's go through these real quick. Jay says that several of the panelists from the 3 Atheist Talk at Online ICSA will be hosting a Sunday afternoon meeting. That's right. I actually did a podcast episode recorded with them last week that I'll be posting here pretty soon, where they talk all about that. That would be John C. from France, John H. from DC, Vic from New York, and Larry K. from Toronto.
Oh, great.
Yes.
Great. And so it'll be an AA meeting, or what is it? What kind of meeting?
It's just going to be a secular recovery meeting. They
okay. I know. I forgot I said that. I didn't even know what I was thinking. I know it won't be an AA meeting. I get that.
No.
Okay. All right.
Katie says that she wants to work overall on mindfulness and positivity. That's a good one.
Yeah, that's a good intention to have. Yeah.
Yes. And me too. It's always something that I can think about. The mindfulness and positivity for sure. I think that my natural inclination is to be a pessimist. It naturally is. I do have to kind of work hard at being positive. What Bree say? Tech is here. Artificial borders are obsolete. all will be assimilated. Resistance is futile. Okay. All right, Bree.
I'm not sure. Artificial borders or okay.
But Bobbert says that we're not boring, just geeky,
Typical geeky.
nerdy.
Good. I'll take that as a compliment. Thank you.
Airs. So good enough. And I do love to have all of your comments and your calls. You know, I've mentioned this before, but I really consider us, Mary, to be fortunate to have this community here where we actually have people that get to watch us every Saturday and participate like this. It's just, I'm honored by it. I truly honestly am. I'm honored by it and humbled by it that so many people care enough about this to participate and to join us every Saturday.
I feel like part of it is a service that it goes out and it stays permanent, that people can click on when they want to listen to something. You know, I know a friend that says she listens to it when she's cleaning out the barn. Like she doesn't do it live, but she'll listen to it later. And, you know, she'll comment, she'll send me little comments about what she liked. And, you know, that's great. I love hearing that.
I love to hear stories like that about people who listen to this in different ways, in different places. And it is pretty interesting. And, you know, every once in a while I'll look at the map of the world map of where all the podcast episodes get downloaded. And it's just almost every country around the world,
right.
You know,
wow.
It's just crazy. It's just crazy. Katie, this is my first time catching y'all live. I swapped over from Audible. Well, welcome, Katie. Nice to have you here. I hope that you enjoy your time here with us.
I hope you do too. It's hard to pull yourself away from Audible, though, I have to say.
Oh,
I have so many credits I'm trying to use up that I just talk about time. How do you have time to read all the books and listen to all the books you want to listen to?
Oh, I know.
How? Yeah.
I know. So is there anything, Mary, that you've learned about yourself that surprises you over this last year? And it doesn't even have to do with this live stream. Just in general, anything that has occurred to you in your life this past year in 2022?
I'm proud that I was able to overcome my fear to even do this podcast, you know, to even kind of try it out. Because I remember in the beginning I said, okay, I'll do 1 month and then we're both going to reevaluate whether we want to do it anymore, you know, like, and I, as it goes on, I just feel more comfortable, you know, in my own skin. And I think as a whole, I feel more comfortable just sharing, being much more open and transparent as a person, even because I'm always kind of like, I don't really show the weaknesses as much. Like I'm usually very confident and everything's great. And then if I have a rough patch, then I just kind of keep it to myself. But I think over this year, I've expanded that to include, you know, life is like this. It's not always like this. And to actually language that. And I feel I'm more able to reach out to just be 100% honest when I'm in meetings, you know, to just say, this is what it's like. I'm getting so much easier with that.
Yeah. What's new for me, I guess, in 2022 that I think I might change a little bit in 2023 is, and this was really intentional on my part, I really became more independent. I stopped really identifying with any particular mode of recovery or whatever, and just became a person in recovery, interested in whatever way of recovery.
Yeah, that's a big change.
It is. And I do like that independence, and I like the freedom that gives me, just to not be constrained by any one particular way of thought. But I say that, and nobody really is. And I never was. I don't know why I ever thought that I was. You're always free to think and do whatever you want, no matter where you are. But I guess what was happening to me is, from doing the podcast and being involved with service work in AA, it was being reminded of traditions and people telling me that I wasn't doing something AA like or whatever. And it was getting to be too much, you know?
So one day you just woke up and said, I don't have to.
That's
do
right.
That. Yeah.
That's right. I said, you to hell with it, you know, the hell with it. So, and that's been freedom.
That is a huge thing you did.
It was, but I do want to change a little bit in that I do think it's important to stay in touch with whatever community, I guess, that has meant so much to me and has brought me to where I am, that I don't want to completely be disengaged, you know? So there's always got to be some balance, and I'm notorious for just one or
Yeah.
nothing, right?
Yeah. All or nothing.
All or
Yeah.
nothing. So I'll do that.
Perhaps there's a way you could be in touch, but not be responsible.
Right.
To just be a participant, but not to do all the work.
Right. So anyway, that's something that I might want to change. And I do want, though, to explore I do want to continue exploring other recovery programs, and it seems like I did a pretty good job covering smart recovery, not so great with Life Ring. And I want to do more Life Ring episodes. And I want to do more. I want to learn more about Women for Sobriety too. I think that those are the two.
Yes, I would like that. And also, have you ever interviewed She Recovers?
No, I haven't.
The lady and the daughter that started She Recovers?
No, I haven't.
Okay, because I would like to know more about that. If anybody in this room has gone to any She Recovers meetings or events or conferences, let me know.
Is it just my imagination, or are there more recovery options specifically tailored for women now than there were before?
I believe so, yes.
I think so.
And I think Holly Whitaker and her co-author also kind of helped start that movement. They wrote some best-selling books about Quit Like a Woman.
Yes.
And Quick Lit, they call it, for women. And I think that whole movement of, getting sober, but not in the typical recovery way, has had a lot of more women come to being sober.
They've had an important role in the whole conversation of recovery and moving things in a direction that it's more acceptable for women, more
right. And so it's not always about getting together and drinking wine, how really talking about alcohol.
Yep.
As a drug and as how we use it in our lives. And I think it started a conversation where people didn't have to join a 12-step recovery group and all the ideas about it. It was a broader movement. And it was also a sort of a business too.
You mentioned Holly Whitaker. So, and I always forget this, my favorite author's name, one of my favorite authors, Catherine Gray. And she wrote The Unexpected Joy of Being Sober. And she was inspired by Holly Whitaker. Mm-hmm. And I've mentioned this before, and I want to have her as a guest, but I'm so starstruck, I'm afraid to even ask her to come on.
Just get her on the schedule, and you can worry about it an hour before she comes on.
She writes so well, and she wrote another book, and I haven't gotten that yet. That just came out this last year. But her name is Catherine Gray. She's from the United Kingdom, and she writes really well. But The Unexpected Joy of Being Sober is a really good book. And she wrote it from a woman's perspective. And she wrote it from the perspective of a woman who really wasn't crazy about how recovery was presented through 12-step programs.
Right.
She wasn't knocking it at all. She said it just wasn't for her. And she found a way to connect with other women online. She's made some friends, and they formed a community. And she just wrote a beautiful book all about just the joy of being sober. And it was just, and the way that she described the whole syndrome, I guess, or whatever, the disease, whatever you want to call it, of alcohol use disorder, at the time when I read it, was new for me to think about it, not just black and white, but really thinking about this on a spectrum, which totally makes sense. The where I was when I was 19 was completely different from where I was when I was 25. It's a progressive thing, and you are at different places on the spectrum. But she thought, and she approached it that way. And then I had another guest this last year, Maggie, Magnifying Maggie, was actually on a podcast. I can't remember her. Magnifying Maggie is what she goes by. But she looks at recovery in that way too, where this could be controversial for some people. But her approach is that, you know what, not everybody has to stop drinking completely, but some people need to make a change to where they're not drinking in excess, and they can learn to moderate. And for those people, and I believe that those people exist. I'm not one of them.
Sure, I'm not one of them, but I'm sure they do exist.
And I think it's good that she talks about that in a realistic way. That, I told her when I met her, I said, God, you know what? If I would have met you when I was 18 years old, I think you would have made a huge difference in my life. Before things got really bad, because she approaches this thing without putting a label on you. You're not an alcoholic. You're not, you're just you're putting a substance in your body that,
But you can't,
it causes problems.
It does cause problems. Yeah.
And she's very smart. And she says, you might need to stop drinking completely. You might have to stop drinking. Then again, you might not. And that's why it's so difficult. It's so much easier to think about things in black and white terms, but she doesn't. She really sees some gray area.
There's a huge conversation about abstinence in the world today.
Yep.
Yeah, agreed on that.
So anyway, Jay Monty says real alcoholic syndrome is divisive. I think that he's talking about some of the talk that.
Yes, I know what he's talking about.
That comes from the big book, where the real alcoholic, and I have heard that in meetings too, mostly from guys. Quite frankly,
from guys, and you always know when it goes to that guy, he goes, my name is Joe Smith, and I'm a real alcoholic, and I'm like, and it's kind of like you're not, like, because you didn't do all this, or and it's just a peeing contest that's unnecessary.
Yeah. And then also too, I think that, and I've heard this from people who are critics of me for whatever damn reason, but the real alcoholic can only recover from God, right? Jesus Christ.
Like God is the answer to all my problems.
It drives me crazy. He says, well, that's great for you. You're not a real alcoholic. The real alcoholic needs to have a spiritual experience, whatever. Okay. Gee, that drives me crazy. But those people I hear from occasionally as well, but they're nuts. They're absolutely nuts. Okay. Back to the topic at hand.
Well, it's unfortunate the way they language it, because it does not include atheists and agnostics in that conversation.
Yes. What book did you order, Alice? The one from Peg O'Connor, or maybe Joe C's book, Beyond Belief, Agnostic Musing for 12-Step Life? Either one are great books, but Peg O'Connor's book is really good. I'd like to know what book you ordered. Okay, so coming on down the line here. Oh, we got a call, and this is coming from Richmond, Virginia. You know who it is?
I know who it is.
Fred. Happy New Year, Fred.
Happy New Year, John.
How you doing?
Hello, Mary.
Hey, John. Hey, what's up, Fred?
Well, I've been listening to the conversation, and I was thinking like this, because you're talking about if you have another recovery left. Well, it's not like that, because you have to think about yourself as being somebody injured. You injured yourself so bad. And here's the thing. If you realize there's no cure, you cannot be cured. You cannot go to a doctor, get cured. You cannot find a cure. There's nobody with a cure. All you have to realize is that the only thing we can do is heal ourselves. And in the process of being hurt, there's things we can't do, but there's plenty of things that we can do in ways to help others, in ways to help ourselves. But we can't pick up that drink or substance that's going to send us back to a place that we lose our reality and don't have a life within that we can rely on ourselves. And as a new beginning of a new year, every year they go back and start over again. But if you haven't finished up yet, the best thing to do is tidy up and go through and do your inventory of the day. And that's all you have to do is say, did I accomplish what I needed to do? If you didn't, put it on the list for tomorrow. So, all these things that people complain about and all the things that they think they know, you have to rely on the fact that we seriously injured ourselves and we have to recover. And the healing is, there's no cure, and we have to heal. And whether it's a man or a woman, whatever their views are, they're going to come up with the same idea after a while, because, they're going to learn from their experience and say, even if they go back out there, or they want to go on maneuvers or something, they're going to find out. You
They're
know,
gonna
they
do
have to start all
research.
over again unless they die.
Yep,
You
got to
know?
start over. Start over.
Well, Fred,
You know, there's an old cryptic saying: "If you die before you die, you'll live forever."
I like
You
it.
know, that's a cryptic saying.
I
So
like
you
it.
know, whether you live to die or you're dying to live, you know, it's all neither here or there, because all we have is today.
And you know, you've mentioned that a lot since you've been calling us over the last couple of years, that all we have is today, and it's a great reminder. And I always appreciate your calls, Fred, and that you take the time to listen. It's an honor that you would do that, and so thank you so very much. And I wish you the very best in 2023, all the health and happiness that you deserve.
Happy New Year, Fred.
Just remember, thank you so much. Just remember, if you were hurt, would you want to re-injure yourself? Would you want the same injury to occur
I would not.
over again?
I would
Right,
not.
right. So that's how you have to help yourself.
Okay.
If you don't want to be re-injured, you have to take care not to get that injury again.
Right.
That's
You know,
right.
Well, again, thanks again, Fred.
Thanks, Fred.
Take care now.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. And
You know what?
And the best wishes in this new year.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Fred.
Always nice to hear
Bye-bye.
from Fred. Bye-bye, Fred.
And you know what? Tonight is going to be a lot of people's final blowout. Think about that. Tomorrow,
Yeah.
a lot of people are going to be getting sober.
That's true.
Tonight will be
That's
the
true.
final blowout for a lot of people, because
I remember that actually in January that the meeting rooms would fill up, you know. But
yes,
now also, isn't it Sober January where a lot of people just kind of experiment with not drinking, whether or not they think they might have a problem? They're just kind of curious about stopping. So isn't that in this month that they do that?
yes, yeah. And they also do the whole 30. There's all different food programs and everything for a month of detox.
Oh.
Yeah, a month, like a dry January.
Oh, let me tell you something, Mary. So I interviewed Mike Collins, the sugar addict guy.
Oh yeah, how was that?
Oh, it was good. And I put that episode out, but he has a sugar-free challenge, a 30-day sugar-free challenge that he starts in January. I told him I was going to do it. Ain't no way. No way. I'm sorry.
You know, it's really hard. I have done it.
Have
and
you?
I felt like it took about 3 weeks for me to change, and I had to take a nap every day. Like, I mean, it's a lot that goes with it. I was dragging for a while.
Yeah, there is.
It's not easy.
No, he did say that there is a withdrawal from it.
There is
and
definitely.
sugar is in everything. It's very difficult. It's a very difficult thing to avoid sugar. And
well, no, you just read the label.
Well, he talks about even stuff that turns into sugar, you know,
Yeah.
carbs and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, but anything with an OSE on the end is usually is sucralose, is some kind of sugar. But I've been through all of this before in different ways. Yeah, and so there's a pamphlet called 100 Names for Sugar, and they give you all the chemical names of sugar to look for on the labels, and then they would say it's okay to eat it if it's the 5th ingredient or beyond, that it's not that much sugar, but you have to really be wanting to do it and have support while you do it. Otherwise, you'll just freak out one day and have a total carbohydrate gorge fest. And then, because it does create cravings for sugar when you totally detox from it immediately. But so maybe you need to send him a little text that you changed your mind about agreement.
I think I will. Well, he even acknowledged too that, I might not be a sugar addict, that, and I don't think I am. I mean, do I occasionally overindulge in this stuff? Yes, I do. But I just don't, I don't know. I don't think that's my problem. But I thought it would be interesting to try to see what it would like to not have sugar for a month. But it's so difficult to do. I just don't want to deal with it right now. Yeah. So,
but alcohol is sugar. You just drink it, and then sugar, you eat it. So it's a similar reaction in the body. Yeah. A lot of people with alcohol problems do have sugar issues.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
true.
So I really want to go back and watch that interview.
Well, one thing that he did tell me is that his community has grown a lot over the last few years, and most of the growth has been from people who are already in recovery from other substances.
Mm-hmm.
And so what's happening is there, as you get off of drugs or alcohol or whatever, you learn that, you know, you also have a problem with sugar
Mm-hmm.
and or caffeine or whatever. And so you become interested in expanding upon that, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and improving your health. It's really about getting healthy is what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at this guy, and he's older than me, and he looks great. He is very, very healthy guy. And he's been, you know, I know it has a lot to do with sugar. Walker, I'm not going to really answer your question because I think that that's kind of complicated about when and why did WA Secular Recovery connect with AA. But to be honest with you, and I'm not part of that.
That's a whole conversation.
Yeah, the podcast isn't connected with that. But the Secular AA organization, all it is are AA groups that happen to be secular. So they are AA groups. And
it was already AA.
Yeah, the hard thing for people to understand about AA is there is no top down. This is AA, and everyone, and you have to become affiliated or whatever. No, any two people getting together and want to help each other stay sober can call themselves an AA group. You know, it's that simple. And so you have had since 1975 these secular AA groups, just like you have gay and lesbian AA groups or whatever.
Yeah.
It's no big deal. So it wasn't like that they became affiliated at one time. They just always have been. And nobody decides. I mean, there is the only requirement for membership is to start drinking. So anyway, it's kind of complicated. It depends upon how you understand AA and everything. But I would encourage you to write the Secular AA organization, seculara@gmail.com, or go to their website. They can tell you all about that. But this podcast isn't really affiliated with that, although I know about it because I used to be a big part of that. But anyway, I did answer your question, I guess. I didn't really intend to.
No, but
Yeah, you're
that's
right,
been
Bree.
discussed in many articles. Yes.
Yes.
What did Bree say? Two drunks.
Oh, two
and
drunks
a
and a
coffee
coffee
pot.
pot.
Yeah.
That's really all it takes. I mean,
Two
it's
drunks,
that,
but with a resentment.
it's
and a
that
coffee pot.
simple. It's that simple. AA, unlike this is where AA is unique from any other recovery organization. The bar for entry is super low. You don't have to take any training to lead a meeting, to run a meeting, to start a meeting. You don't have to agree to any set of principles. All you have to do is get a meeting place and another person who wants to have meetings with you, who wants to talk about staying sober. You can call yourselves an AA group. You can send people off to the AA conferences if you want to or whatever. That's all it is to it. And it's that simple. It really is.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
It is that simple. And every group is autonomous, so they can
Yeah, and I love that
group
about AA.
culture.
I love that about AA. That's not to take away from other things like, you know, in smart recovery, the bar is a little bit higher. If you want to start a smart recovery meeting, you just can't go off and do that. You know, you have to go through training, become a facilitator. Jennifer says the bar was so low that they let her in. Yes, that's pretty. They let me in too. They didn't deny me my place. That's good. Okay.
So,
anyway,
so let me ask this: in smart recovery, do they get certified?
they do.
to
So
be a
I actually
leader?
took the training. So you have to become certified to be a meeting facilitator, and then you have to go through. You put in an application to actually start a meeting somewhere, and then you can start one, and then you should run the meeting based upon the guidelines that they give you for running the meeting. And it's really where you facilitate the meeting by using their tools and so forth. Just a different thing. But the bar is a little bit higher to start one of those meetings. So I was going to tell you another one of my favorite episodes that we should do more of in 2023.
What?
Jeopardy. The recovery.
Oh yeah,
Jeopardy.
that was
so
fun.
much fun.
Yeah, that was fun.
Just having fun like that, and you know, just coming up with different questions. You know, I did one of those for the Kansas City group, and a lot of people learned things that they didn't know otherwise.
Yeah,
you
like
know?
history
Yeah.
trivia. Yeah.
Yeah. So you know,
That was fun. I love those kind of graphics and that the lightheartedness of it. It's great.
yeah. So we'll do some more of that as well. I also like when you and I just do question and answer rounds, or where we have people that will call in with questions, just any question off the top of your head, whatever. Those are fun too, and they're easy to do. It doesn't take a whole lot of work and planning ahead
True.
of time, really.
Because I mean, you know what your answer is. You don't have to
Yeah.
prepare for it. Yes.
Yeah.
True.
And, you know, when you and I did the steps, I thought that those were really good episodes too. And I like doing that. And I think that we should do that again in 2023 because I don't know about you, but the way that I think about those steps is always changing, how I feel about them, the importance of them, and how I want to talk about them. I find them fascinating. I really do. And it's not like I'm pushing them on anybody or anything, but I think they make for interesting conversation. And honestly, that's the entry point for a lot of people getting into recovery. They start with that, the 12
Agreed.
steps,
Agreed.
because it's the most accessible thing.
Right.
As we said, they even let Jennifer in the meetings. You know, the bar is that low, so that's why you have so many people. So I think it's important to have those conversations about, you know what, if you're just getting exposed to AA and you're secular, then you know
here's how to language
here's how
it.
you can language it. Exactly.
And I'm always interested in how to language it. Like when I first started out in secular recovery, I had no idea how to talk about it in secular terms.
Yeah.
And there are people that have already figured it out, and there are lots of books on it. And I look at it sort of like being a quilter. It's all fabric, but the way you put it together makes a totally different quilt.
Yep.
And so it's all just about language and perspective. And I love it when people interpret the 12 steps in a new way. I
do too. There's a talk that's really worth listening to from the 2014 Santa Monica conference.
Okay.
And it was from Ward Ewing, Reverend Ward Ewing. Mm-hmm. What I loved about his talk, he was a reverend and everything like that, religious, and there was some controversy about him speaking there, I guess. But here's what I remember he said, and I might get this wrong, the quote exactly, but he said that there's the only difference between someone who is religious in a recovery and someone who isn't is just the way they describe their experience. We all have the same experience. In other words, it's just that the words that we use to describe it is different. That's all there is to it.
Agreed.
And I love that. And I have carried that with me ever since. That's how I understand recovery now. It's not that it's not that you have your way and I have my way. It's we all have the same experience, but we're describing it. You're describing it in your way and I'm describing it in my way. And that allows me to come to where you are and respect you for the way that you want to describe your recovery and explain it to you. I don't have to correct that. I don't have to say it's right or wrong, but I can understand it from how you're describing it. And I have so much more appreciation for that, even now more so than I did a couple years ago. Even I've really kind of come back around, thanks to Peg O'Connor, really, to really appreciating other people's need to express their recovery in their own way. It is so important.
It is so important. It's so important to give people to be tolerant of other people's ways.
It really, really is.
Yeah.
So,
and there's not one source of sobriety. There's not one source where you get the courage to change. There's not one source for the change. Yep. And a lot of people think it has to go the way they think it should. And that's a problem.
Right.
And that's why we're here.
Yep. Jay Monty says, we agnostics and free thinkers in AA, but they changed it because humanists and other groups didn't get mentioned, so it was dropped to secular. That's right. That's true. Oh, such an interesting history. Somebody should write a book about all that. I think that Roger C. did, but yeah, that's right. So they
Go ahead.
Oh, he was talking about, so what happened was WAFT, we agnostics and free thinkers in AA, right? Became secular AA.
Right.
And that happened because secular was more inclusive.
Right.
Than just
a bigger umbrella.
Yes.
Right. Because he's saying because the humanists weren't mentioned and who else?
Right. Humanist and whatever, you know.
I would love to have UK humanist on here.
Yeah.
As guests. I would love to talk to someone from them.
Oh, yeah. There are so many interesting things we could do. That's one thing I do love about podcasting is the ability to meet people and talk with people that I wouldn't have that opportunity to do otherwise. Mm-hmm. I mean, this really has enriched my life in ways that I never could have imagined. I don't think I would be who I am today and have the thoughts and the way of thinking that I have today if it weren't for this podcast, or that I've become interested in the things that I'm interested in if it weren't for this podcast and all the people that I've met over the years.
That's great. That's wonderful.
Oh, it's just, it's incredible. And that all of that information is shared out there for anybody can benefit from. It's just, this is incredible stuff. This is just one podcast. There are
millions
of podcasts, and how many recovery podcasts? Lots of them.
Oh, I know. My phone is full of recovery podcasts. Yes.
I encourage people to listen to as many of them as possible. So we're coming up towards the end. I guess that I don't really know what else I want to say that I haven't mentioned already, but I am looking forward to 2023, Mary. I'm looking forward to more of these live streams. I'm looking forward to the podcast. I'm looking forward to where I might evolve and go with in my recovery. I'm excited. I'll tell you another thing I'm excited about. My wife and I told you we're going to be taking a trip.
Oh, yes.
Well, we were going to go to UK originally, but now we're changed it to the Netherlands.
Wow.
We're going to go to the Netherlands, and we already have our plane tickets. We're going to be leaving in April.
Wow. For how long?
2 weeks. And the reason I'm so excited about it, Mary, is I spent my grade school years in the Netherlands.
You did?
Yes. I lived there for like 4.5 years when I was a kid. So like from like the first grade to the fourth grade.
So you're going to go back to where you were?
Yes.
Nice.
And for me, I just am so excited, and I'm going to have this opportunity to go to where I lived, and I want to go find the house that I lived in. I want to walk around the streets where I used to ride my bike when I was a kid.
That's awesome.
I mean, just thinking about it, I kind of get emotional. I really need to. So anyway,
where are you going to fly? Where is it?
We're going to fly into Amsterdam, and then we're going to go all through where I lived was in the very southern province, Limburg. In Brunsum and Twinterland are the two cities that I lived in. And we're going to go down there, and then we're also going to spend some time in Belgium, and I think we're going to go into Germany too, but that whole area. But I think we're going to spend like 3 days in Amsterdam, and my wife's, we're still planning it out right now, but I'm super excited about it. I love that country, and to go to revisit the past is going to be interesting.
It's going to be wonderful.
I know that when you go there, it's going to look different. I already was trying to look it up on Google Maps, and the whole place looked different than it did back in ancient times when I lived there.
Yes, ancient times when the dinosaurs roamed the earth.
Yeah, but I am looking forward to that. And you know what, too, Mary? I'm going to schedule some breaks for us on the live stream and also the podcast, regular breaks, because it's so easy to get, life. Both of us have busy lives, and things get so crazy sometimes. And I just think it's nice to know that, you know what, next month we don't need to worry about this. Next month we can take a break or whatever. And I know, like in April, I'm going to take a break for that trip where I don't have to worry about anything. Yeah. And then we're taking another trip in the fall. We're going to go to Asheville, North Carolina.
Oh, good.
A driving vacation.
You're going to love it.
Yeah,
I love Asheville. Asheville is fabulous. Yeah,
I've been there before. My wife hasn't been there, so that'll be nice.
It's the Santa Cruz of the South. That's what I say. Yep. Well, I'm going to be moving probably to a smaller cottage on the water. Oh, really? So I'll be downsizing.
Oh, that sounds really nice, Mary.
Well, it's taken me a year to get used to that idea of downsizing to a small cottage. So I have to really look at everything I own and what I can let go of and what I'm ready to let go of. And it's taken me a year to finally be ready to let go of things and to just simplify my house and how I live, and be really closer to the water will be a plus.
That's going to
be a big
cottage on the water.
Big change.
Really, really, really nice.
Yes, the marsh is my favorite place. It's
so
awesome.
What are you going to be doing for New Year's Eve?
That's a very good question. I don't know. I'll see what the kids are doing. I might be doing a fire pit in the backyard. I'm going out for lunch this afternoon, and then if I'm not doing a fire pit in the backyard, I'll probably be home watching a movie.
Okay. We're not going to do much here. I'll probably watch a movie and just call it a night, probably early.
Yeah.
we don't typically even make it to midnight. So that's
sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But I'm usually worried about the animals and the noises. So that's where I'm at. And then I'll wake up tomorrow and have a great day without a hangover.
Yes. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. It's been wonderful to have you here, and thank you for all your support over the last year. And I look forward to more of this in 2023. I wish you all the very best New Year and all the best happiness and peace and everything that you deserve. So happy New Year, everybody! Look forward to seeing you next
Likewise.
year.
Thank
And
you.
now we're going to go ahead and do our outro music, which is a new thing for us. And here we go. Goodbye, everybody. And here we
Bye.
go. Bye bye.